Hey, we're live. Hey, YouTube. Welcome back to another Let's Talk. Sorry if my hoodie looks a little bit ratty. I haven't worn this in a while. It is a little bit ratty, but it was one of the lighter things that I had. I didn't need anything super warm today. On my walk to work, no selfie cam. I don't want to deal with this. Jeez. But I kind of wanted to talk about, the title's a little bit awkward, I know. Kind of want to talk about, like, going shopping, which ties into parents kind of noticing when their kids are being good. And, this started quite a while ago. It wasn't necessarily a parent. This case was a, I'm pretty sure it was like an older sister. You know, she was like 17, somewhere around there. And the kids were like 10, maybe a little bit younger. That's a close approximation to the age. And she was coming through my line at the dollar store. I was, checking her out for the few items that they needed, which was very small. They were buying like, 5 things. And it's always the thing people like always say is, it's the $1 store, but then it turns into the $20 store, or $50 store. But, hey, I think that's actually kind of cool that they're getting, well, that's for another topic. I'll end that thought by saying that don't feel so bad, because a lot of times I look in the cart and a lot of people are buying useful items, If you're buying, like, the fun stickers and stuff, I'm not going to hate on you. I do that myself, too, but, yeah. Anyway, so they were in the store, and it was the younger kids. There was a boy and a girl, brother and sister. Pretty sure they were all siblings, and they were like, they were looking at something, like we have what's called the impulse grid. One second. Okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry about that. It looks a little bit fuzzy. Part of that's because of my my screen protector's been having issues lately, and maybe a bit of dust got under there when I was trying to fix it. So we'll go on, and I'll try and get that fixed. But they were like looking at stuff on the impulse grid, which is just, it's when you walk up to register at your store, and they have various items that you might need, which for most stores is just candy, some different candy and snacks, maybe some magazines and sodas. That's what's the impulse grid is. And the dollar store has, not the magazines, but they have the candy and stuff. But then there's other stuff that you might not second need, like a lighter. There's some pregnancy tests. We got some pens, pen stylus, some other stuff, some snacky things. Playing cards, a little bit more than you might find at like an average store, which is usually just food-centric, and then magazines. But they were looking at the items and then putting them back exactly where they found them. And there were a few items that didn't belong there, and I'm not hating on them for this because they didn't do it at all. But they picked that up, looked at it, and put it back down. They were being some of the nicest kids that I've ever seen. They looked like they were genuinely, not like laughing, having a really good time, but they were kind of enjoying themselves quietly looking at the various items in the store. And this whole time, their older sister was like, "Don't touch that. Put that down. Could you please stop touching that?" Like, seriously. I can understand if your kids, or your siblings for that matter, are known to make a big, huge mess of things. There are plenty of kids that do that. And yeah, to them, you might want to say that because you've tried your hardest, and hopefully they learn in the future, but they still don't know yet how to put things away where they found them and be nice with stuff like that, and so they don't do that. And so, for you, it's a lot easier to just keep them from touching almost anything. I get that, okay? Especially when kids get into so much stuff and you don't know the store very well. Your own house is one thing, because you kind of know where everything goes, but in the store you might not. And so if they don't touch a whole bunch of stuff, like, you might only see them touch 3 things when they've actually touched 10 plus things. Which, yeah. could very well happen. And so you want to kind of avoid them making a mess of the store, which in turn kind of looks bad on you. But for me, though, I recognize the kids are kids. And yes, there is some blame going towards the parent. There's even kind of scripture about this that, you know, if kids are doing wrong, I forget how it goes, but it's basically blame's going to be on the fault of the parents if the kids go wrong, is what the scripture's saying. I can't remember it where it is. And that, because it's scripture, it's even relating to, like, you know, more sins and stuff like that, which I'm not going to go there this video, but just kind of remember that. But it is true. There is a large percentage of where parents do something and the kids are going to do it. And so it's kind of sort of the kids' fault. But we also, today, there's like so much outward influence that... I would say if you go back to like the 1800s, you know, like the Wild West, not that TV show, but that era of like Bonanza, Little House on the Prairie, then more like 90... I think back then a lot more of the communities that people formed, the towns and cities, they were more united and agreeing on some of the same things. And I would say back then, this is just numbers out of a hat, but to me it feels like back then 75% of what the kids do was kind of influence from their parents in some way, you know. And then the other... the other 25% was from outside influences. But nowadays, it's a lot closer to like 60, like maybe 55% is from the parents, and that leaves the other 45% for outward influences. And it's, yeah, so... I don't blame parents every time 100%. Like, I'm not really blaming parents at all. That's, you know, but if I were, you know, I would say, yeah, there's some from them, but it's also kind of the kids too. And especially for the parents that are trying to have their kids do what's right and to not have them make a mess of the dollar store where I work, or any store for that matter. I recognize that, and I'm not blaming you if you're actively trying. Different story for some parents who don't really worry about or care. That's another topic. But, I mean, seriously, back to that story. They were being so nice. Why not let them have fun? When I have kids, I'm going to work hard to make sure they know how to put stuff back where they found it, treat things nicely and not make a mess of places. And then when we go to the store, I'm going to actually encourage them to look around. As long as they don't make a mess of things, as long as they put stuff back where it belongs, I'm going to encourage them to look at stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff at stores. And some of you guys are saying, no, that's a bad idea, because then they're going to see everything and want everything. Well, then I'm just going to tell them like it is, you know, like, nope, not right now, sorry. We can't afford that. Nope. I said no. If I have to, I will get a little more adamant and a little more angry about things. I'm going to try and avoid that, but there is a small time and a place for that. Little leave. Stop now, but it was blowing towards me. So there is a time and a place for that. And, you know, and then I've seen a few other instances too, where this time it was definitely the kid's mom. And like, you know, it looked to me like it wasn't long enough for me to see how he was acting, but it looked to me, take this off, like he was acting nicely, putting stuff back where it belongs like the other two kids were. And then she was kind of doing the same thing. And that kind of leads into like parents noticing how good you are, because I feel like this is something that I'm personally working on, because I know it's not this way. My relationship with my mom isn't the best, but it is something that I'm actively working on to make it better, change some of the things that I'm doing, But one of the big things is I kind of feel like she doesn't notice when I do certain things. Less so now than it used to be. But dishes is the big example, because it's one thing that we kind of sort of have had fights over, like, those are not my dishes, why should I have to clean? Which, now I'm old enough, I recognize, just help out and be nice. But at the same time, kind of the way that she comes at me about it, it sounds to me like, but those are mine, why didn't you clean them up? But the big thing that I push, or used to anyways, is that you don't notice when I do, actually I still kind of push this, you don't notice when I actually do the dishes. So like imagine if we have a month that goes by, and during that month I cook myself food when she's not around to see it. Not that I'm trying to hide my cooking or anything, but just that she just doesn't happen to be around. She's running errands or something. So I cook myself some food. I clean up all of my dishes. The kitchen looks amazing for a whole month. And then finally, towards the end of that month, I have a short film or something else, big project, and I go and I cook myself some food, and I'm so focused on it, I don't get everything quite cleaned up. I kind of sort of forget about what am I thinking? Kind of sort of forget about some of the dishes, and the kitchen's not 100% immaculate. And so then she's kind of like, dude, why don't you clean up after yourself in the kitchen? Which she does know that I do sometimes, but sometimes she doesn't see it. But that's happened in the past. And I'm like, yeah, I do. Just this time I've been a little bit busy and I kind of forgot. And you just don't see all the times that I cleaned up. And also too, like, she has no idea if maybe over the past month I've just been eating takeout and throwing those in the garbage can, and that's why it's so clean, is because I chose a type of meal that didn't require hardly any cleanup. Just throw your plastic away in the garbage can and you're done. Nothing to wash. Go back to your projects at home. And kind of goes both ways, but then also there are times where, I'll say she doesn't clean up because she's busy with projects too. So that's kind of something that I pushed as well. This was a really big opening thing for me when I realized this. And why? Because it's not just about the fact that she doesn't notice when I clean up, but this was like a year or so ago, maybe 6 months, I don't know. But I realized that it wasn't just about the fact that I couldn't leave anything behind, that she felt like I was not cleaning up after myself, but the fact that, like, it's like, Mom, you always get to cook something and leave the dishes behind to run back to your projects of chiropractic patients, building the upstairs part of our house. You always get to do that. And I never get to do that. That's what it felt like. And so coming from this, there's been a few other things, and I'm actively working on this. I'm actively working to make sure, actually notice when she notices stuff, and not be so hard on her or anyone about this. But I think a lot of parents could stand to maybe notice, like back to the first story, the older sibling, and same thing for older siblings too, they could notice more. Like, she was, she was kind of preoccupied with paying. Her focus was on me scanning the items and then, putting the credit card in the machine and doing that process to get out as quickly as possible, which just ties into people being in a rush. I feel like the world is way too much in a rush. When I go shopping, I like to take more time than my mom does, and we kind of even out a bit, and she's kind of nice and lets me get things in when we go shopping. But I like to take a little bit more time than, my mom does, maybe most people even, because they're such a hurry. But if you weren't such a hurry, you would probably notice more when your kids were being nice. If actually, instead of just seeing them out of the corner of their eye touching stuff, if you actually watched them for just 10 seconds, you would see that they looked at the item to see what it is, and, just see how cool it is. Maybe if it's something that they'll want, like, oh, I don't have money right now, sister's probably not willing to buy this for me, but maybe if I go home and do enough chores, I can earn $1 and come to the store and buy this item that I want. If you looked at them for just like 10 seconds, you would see that, and then hopefully you would be like, oh, they're not making a mess of the store. They're just looking at the items and putting them back. I don't have to yell at them. Seriously. Oh, one other note I want to make. When I said I go shopping longer than other people, I do. And I feel that's kind of because I walk a lot of places. Like, I'm walking to work right now. This is my own choice, so I could talk to you guys. But I do feel like I do it more because I walk. It's like, you know, there's something I'm going to Best Buy to see if they have. It's going to take me an hour and a half plus to walk there. That's just one way. You know, I might as well spend at least that much time in the store looking around at what they have, because I'm probably not going to go to Best Buy for another several months or so. I don't need to go there very often because I'm walking and nobody's able to give me a ride right now. And so that's kind of where my spending longer times at the store comes from. I want to make sure it was a worthwhile trip walking there and then walking back. Make it worthwhile. That's where I'm coming from. But so, I think I don't have a lot of experience in the field of parenting. I'm not claiming to, but you know, I definitely think that parents could stand a little more time to actually observe their kids and what they're doing. Like, I don't know, it kind of seems to me like parents are kind of sort of jumped the gun about some things now with their kids, especially with the way a lot of other kids are acting and how we've had so long, and there's kind of stereotypes about kids, which don't stereotype kids, okay? There are some things that are true across the board, but even then, take the time to actually watch your kids and find out about them, which I'm sure that you're already doing if, you know, well, there are some parents I've seen who maybe don't do that as much. Just seems kind of to me like I look at them and I'm like, I'm sure you're not doing anything that would need the law enforcement to be involved, you know, have your kids taken away. You don't look that bad at all. But also it looks like you could be a little bit nicer to your kids. And I haven't said this to anybody, I'm not going to. But, you know, part of it is I kind of don't have like the heart. I hate saying no. I kind of hate saying anything that is in a negative way. Sometimes they need to be said and I don't like it, but, you know. And I get there are some situations where you might actually want to do that. Like, it's like, you know, they're being a little bit mean to their kids. Maybe it's not necessary to, you know, call anybody. But at the same time, you think they could benefit if you just said, be a little bit nicer to your kids or something along those lines. I don't know. So there's a lot of things that, you know, could stand to be noticed more when kids are being good. So when you take your kids to the store, actually watch them and see how they're behaving, you know. And also keep in mind too that kind of the way we behave in public is different from the way that we behave, you know, at home in private. There's a lot of things we only do to family that we don't do to any friends, neighbors, or random people. Just cause, you know, especially when, like, we kind of fear outside. Like, we know what mom's gonna do to us if we're a little bit mean to her. But, you know, she's send us to timeout, go sit in a corner. But I don't necessarily know what this random other person at the grocery store is going to do if I'm a little bit mean to him. You know, maybe he's going to actually give me a really hard slap across the face that's going to hurt, which I don't want that way more than I don't want time out in the corner kind of thing. I don't know. There's kind of that mentality too. So you might end up in a scenario where the room is like an absolute mess and stuff, but they look like the most nice, amazing kids outside of the house, and they put everything away at the grocery store. So, I don't know. Those are kind of my thoughts on that. What I'm thinking right now. And, you know, I think a lot of relationships can be improved by taking the time to notice. Then, you know, like any relationship, now that I think about it. Oh, what am I thinking of? It's not just, you know, the parent-family relationships, but anything really. If you think, you know, that was the other thing I was going to say. And I really hope that this is not me shooting myself in the foot, like my kids seeing this video before I get to do this to them. But something that I've thought about doing, I'm not 100% dead set on this. You know, depending on if my wife feels comfortable with this and whatever happens in the future. But something I've thought about doing to maybe at a young age kind of teach my kids the importance of money. And when we say we can't buy something, we mean that we can't buy something. Is I thought about, you know, like taking the kids and then having them, you know, go play downstairs in their room or outside, go to a friend's house for a little bit before we go shopping, somewhere away from like the kitchen and the pantry, that sort of an area. And then like take all the food out of the fridge and the pantry and, you know, hide it. And also I'm thinking like if I let the food get a little bit low before we go shopping too, where, you know, like maybe, I don't like jelly, but I'm sure my kids probably will. My wife probably will. But like, where, you know, like where it's like we're having peanut butter and jelly sandwiches a lot more often than usual because we're running out of some other stuff in the fridge, you know, stuff like that. Or not even sandwiches, ramen noodles, anything. Just kind of let it get low. So then when they go and hide them, you know, they go playing in the room or away from the kitchen area. We take whatever's left in the fridge and pantry and we kind of hide it somewhere for later. And so then when we go shopping, I'm going to say, you know, they're going to be like, Daddy, I want this dollhouse. I'm sorry, honey, we don't have money right now, but I really, 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 really want it, Daddy. Oh, fine, you can have a dollhouse, and I want an action figure, and get them almost everything that they want, you know. And also make sure that I have a decent amount of money around this time, too, so that I can buy them almost anything. And then, you know, buy them all this stuff, and then while we're out shopping on that trip, too, I'm also going to buy we'll buy like some bread and peanut butter or tuna, some simple stuff to make sandwiches. Just like one loaf of bread, like one jar of peanut butter, maybe one jar of jelly, and that's it. And then we'll get home and, you know, it'll be time to eat lunch or whatever, dinner. I'll make a sandwich, just one sandwich, and I'll cut the sandwich up to split it between, you know, all the siblings in the house. And then, you know, then I'll be like, okay, this is what we're having for dinner. We have to make this food last until I get paid again because, you know, we spent all our money on the dollhouse and all this other stuff. And I don't know if this actually will work, if this actually will get to kids. And, you know, I do recognize that there is a point where, you know, like, they're too young to understand. But then again, a lot of cases I feel like kids are really smart too. And so you could start them a little bit earlier. And, like, even if they won't understand it, like, I know I sure would appreciate hearing part of a reason why something won't work, even if I couldn't understand it or can't right now. You know, like, instead of, Mom, can we get this? No. Mom, I want this. Nope. Put it back. No. Why not say something else? Say something like, I'm sorry, we don't have enough money right now. We don't have enough money. I like the parents that do that, okay? And the other thing, too, there are some parents that are smart. And they say, like, they don't actually have any quarters on them, which is smart, you know? And then, of course, you know, like, you could get quarters from me as a cashier. I could, you know, if you're not paying cash, I could, you know, exchange for quarters every once in a while. That works out, but it's smart when you don't bring quarters, so your kids, you don't have any quarters to give them. But yeah, that's something that I'm thinking about doing, you know. But, oh yeah, that's what I was saying, is you know, I certainly would like something like that. You know, tell your kids you don't have enough money. If they don't understand it, that's okay. I think it'll make an impression later on as they get a little bit older and they do start to understand that a little bit. Then they might remember back, oh yeah, that's why that one time it will connect a little bit faster. You know, that's something I would like to do. So I'm going to try and start teaching my kids some of the stuff when they're younger. I'm not going to push them, but just start kind of young and, you know, teach them some higher principles than maybe kids their age know. Just use terms like that to try and get them smart. I get dumbing down stuff for children, but I'm going to dumb it down less than I think most people do. So, yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts. I don't have much more to say on this topic. There's one watching right now. If you got any questions about this, leave them in the comments right now. I'm going to wait like 30 more seconds and then cut this stream. And you're watching, so yes, thank you for watching. Usually I don't get a lot of people watching these live. They see it afterwards. And hopefully when my channel gets a lot bigger, more people will discover this series, if not. But yeah, those are my thoughts on, you know, kind of noticing more about what your kids do and going shopping, which should be a fun and exciting experiment. There are a whole lot of wonders in each store to be found and seen. That's part of why I like shopping, is looking around and just seeing what there is to buy. Even if I'm not going to buy it, maybe I don't need it right now. It's good stuff for the future. I'll remember, oh yeah, this one store I saw this thing, I can go there and get it. And I really, really hope that stores don't go away at all. Like, I like shopping online. There's a lot of great stuff to be had there, especially great deals on items with Amazon and whatnot. But at the same time, I definitely still want to be able to go to a store and look at items. You know, even if I could, like, click a button and then 5 minutes later that item would be at my door, I would still want to be able to go to a store and look at the stuff and see things. It's really good for exposure and seeing things that you might not have seen elsewhere. So I'm going to cut it here. Thank you guys so much for watching now, live, and whenever you do. I'll see you guys whenever's next.